good content allow me to grow and test new things and re-elaborate certain assumptions. Hi, I'm Luca. I'm a principal solution architect at AWS, and I'm having Beyond Code conversation with Recro.
So hello and welcome to Beyond Code Conversation with Recro. Beyond Code is an interactive series of conversation with experienced developers where we talk everything about that developers would like to know beyond code. I'm your host Rashmi, and our guest for today is Luca Mezzalira. He is a principal solution architect at AWS, an international speaker, and a book author. Thank you so much, Luca, for taking out the time and having this conversation with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. It's a pleasure having you. So let's get started, Luca. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Luca. I'm working for AWS right now. This month is 18 years that I'm in the industry. So I have seen quite a few technology eras, if you want. Let's say that on top of my job, I'm deeply in love with the communities in general, software community, and very often I'm trying to consider I'm learning a lot from them. I'm trying to share back my knowledge just to provide, let's say, my take on several topics, especially around architecture, front end and cloud.
Awesome. We'll also come to that. You have done 250 plus webinars. That's really impressive, right? So we'll come to that question as well. Can you talk about, your role at Amazon? What are you solving for customers right now?
Yeah, so usually, as a principal architect, my role varies at different levels. So it's not only, let's say, working on with customers, it's also creating thought leadership activities, but everything should happen at scale. So trying to be, to scale my activities and coach other SAs, other architects, and provide some wisdom on how to tackle certain problems, technical or organizational ones, are usually my day-to-day.
Okay. And I was also going through your LinkedIn profile, and I got to know that you started as a Flash developer in 2004, and today you're working as a principal solution architect at AWS. Can you tell us about your journey, how it has been so far?
It was intense, I would say. Because I'm a self-taught, I didn't study university. I left school when I was 16, and I started working in a factory. So in the evening I was studying, and therefore I found my passion basically very early in my life about what I'm doing, and I started to smash books like 500 pages that before was impossible for me thinking about that because I wasn't, let's say, that keen to study things. But I found it in programming languages and more in general in developing my passion. And therefore, I started to do a lot of exercises and trying things in my spare time, and more or less every evening I was doing something, or weekends as well. So when I have a bit of spare time, I'm just writing code or learning something, trying new things. And slowly but steady, I started to have a bit of confidence. I created a few websites as example, and they were seen back in the days in 2004 from a company in my hometown, and they asked me if I wanted to join their company. Since then, basically, I then became a freelance after a few months, create my own company, start to hire my first few developers. We arrived to have roughly between internal and external 20 people in the organization. And then I sold my part, went to UK, and there I started again looking for a different take, because in the first 9 years of my career, I have experience in different countries, a different culture of tech, and I wanted to experience, let's say, a more mature one compared to the Italian one. And I moved here. in UK, and since then, basically, I work often in large organizations and in different industries. But I moved from tech lead to solution architect, chief architect, VP of architecture, and now principal architect in Amazon.
Wow, I mean, that's pretty impressive, Luca. I mean, you were a self-taught developer, no formal education. And especially in today's time, wherein a lot of emphasis is being given to a formal education, and you were self-taught back in 2004, wherein people hardly used to talk about it, right? So how did you, out of curiosity, I'm asking, how did you figure out your passion that this is something that you would like to do, and you would like to, you used to spend all your weekends and extra time in coding and learning code. How did you figure that out for yourself? Because a lot of people struggle with that, a lot of people don't even know what do they want to do in life. What about how did it happen to you?
I was one of them, to be honest, but I was lucky enough during my time that a colleague of mine one day came with a book, and I said, listen, what is that book? And it was a book on HTML and CSS, HTML4. So we were talking really quite an old version of it. And I said, oh yeah, you should look at that. And basically he showed me an example that he did in his spare time. And I said, okay, so you write this code and you see this visual on the screen. I thought that's interesting. So I just tried, and it resigned very well with me. It was, let's say, a pretty cool understanding what there was behind, how with small, let's say, statement you could create something. And then I discovered Flash. And there became, let's say, really amazing because you could create wherever you wanted with that technology. And the thing that I always loved is trying to push the technology towards their edges and their boundaries. So I remember I tried Flash on embedded systems, and it was working pretty well. I work on desktop applications, on mobile applications, and basically where there is the think that people saying, oh, this technology will never work there is where I wanted to work. And I was trying to find that kind of jobs that allow me to push the boundaries and push myself as well. To be honest with you, I think that the passion started to grow because it wasn't just me. It was out there also, despite it was 2004, the community was strong. And I started immediately. At the time, there wasn't, let's say, socials or anything. We used forums. So I started to read some forums and provide my solutions on there. And then I met people virtually, then in person, because the community was Italian, and we started to grow together. We worked together in certain projects, so it was very collaborative. And that's a part that I brought with me till now, because I truly believe that nowadays learning and growing in this industry is a collaborative effort, because it's becoming very complicated compared to back in the days. Therefore, you need to try different things and find your path. I don't think there is just one path for everyone. You need to try and see what works with you, what it doesn't, what you are passionate about, and then start to pursue that. Luckily now we have a gazillion of place where you can learn. You can learn from socials, you can learn from video courses, books, or whatever. So I think that problem is overcome. Now we have a different problem that is filtering all those information. And usually the suggestion for me is trying to follow the people that have made an impact in the industry, because usually if you follow the people that they are following, it's very likely that you already have a very good insight on what's happening.
Absolutely. And it's pretty interesting that you mentioned about communities, because I think from last 8 to 10 years, communities have they are like the buzzword and talk of the town, you can say, wherein a lot of people are talking about it. But back in 2004, it's quite interesting to know it from you that even back in 2004, there used to be tech communities which used to be very collaborative and very supportive. What role has it played in your in terms of your career growth, or in terms of that support that you have received? Like, what role did community play at that point of time?
I used to say that I have a forever debt with the communities, because vast majority of the things that I learn, or the direction that I've taken, is because I was reading someone sharing their experience, or I read a book about that topic, or a colleague of mine suggests read that book or read that article, follow that person on social, and these constant exposure to good content allow me to grow and test new things and re-elaborate certain assumptions that maybe others have done. And that for me was the best thing. The community for me played a key role for understanding the direction where people were going, why certain things were happening. And then I wasn't afraid to ask questions, because I believe it's kind of key that is a bi-directional communication. It's not I just take and that's it. Despite the level that you got, I think it's very, very important that you raise the question, because there might be people that already know the answer, but there might be people that they didn't even arrive in their journey to raise that question in their head. And therefore, there is always someone that could find helpful what you're sharing, or what is your angle on a specific topic. I truly believe that there is no such thing like, oh yeah, but it's already treated in a gazillion of other blog posts. But you can have a very unique point on the way how you are pursuing your journey on development, or a specific language or pattern, wherever it is, and someone will find it useful. So don't hold yourself on because other people are discussing the same topic or sharing this information. I think it's extremely helpful, and not only for sharing, but also for yourself. One thing that I learn that when you do it, when you prepare a talk, when you write an article, whatever, usually that allows you to create mental models in your head that then are reusable, and you are crystallize basically some knowledge that in other ways you won't be able, because sometimes, yeah, you're writing a solution right now, but I can guarantee you that in 6 months, probably you forget about it. But if you need to explain to someone else, then your brain has to do the extra mile for learning how to express and share a clear concept, and that basically is forcing you to create mental models in your head.
Awesome. And now I think I am also able to correlate your passion for giving back to the communities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So talking about, your role at AWS right now, someone who aspired to be a principal solution architect, can you take us through what the role demands? What are the key skills that a developer should possess to be successful at this role?
I think there are different principles with different characteristics. So I think that the role is interpreted by the person. One thing that is definitely in common is the experience that we have passed through from the trenches, basically, and we have experienced different organizations in different roles. We have seen an end-to-end. We passed through, let's say, the classic a path from a developer to tech lead to architect and so on. So I think that is something that we got in common. Their role is interpreted in different ways from different people. And I think is also one strength of what we have, because yes, there are some goals that are aligned, but at the same time, we are trying to have judgment based on our experience on where we want to move and have an impact inside the organization and towards our customers. So I believe that there isn't just one way to become a principal architect in AWS. There are multiple ways, and every of us has a unique path. So more than say this is the receipt to arrive there, I would say starting from pushing your boundaries outside your comfort zone and be comfortable to be outside your comfort zone, because that's the role of every developer or technologist in these days, that we need to accept the fact that we are not going to know everything, and it's fine. There is no problem at all. The important thing that we need to remember is that there is always someone that will know something more than us, despite the role that we got. And therefore, that for me is the driver to do small incremental steps every day for learning something new.
Great. Awesome. Luca, you also, authored front-end reactive architecture and building micro-frontends, right? So can you tell us what inspired you to write these books, and, what are some of the key takeaways for developers who should read it, and as and when developers do, what are they going to learn out of it?
Yeah, so the first book on reactive architectures was a research that I have done for several years, starting from quite a few ancient white papers from the 70s, 80s, because that is when reactive programming started. And I became quite passionate. So I wanted to see the declination of that architecture pattern into the front end part. So I started to research. I have seen a proliferation of libraries that were coming up in the JavaScript ecosystem on that. And what I really like is taking some topics like that and trying to unwind for making them accessible to everyone. And that allows me to obviously write a lot of code, doing small proof of concept, trying different things, see how they could apply based also on my experience, but also deep dive on specific topics. So the thing that I have done in that book was a comparison of different architecture style that are fully reactive, because I think there is a lot of benefit on that approach as a developer, but the learning curve is quite steep at the beginning. So that was trying to unwind a complex project and provide, let's say, different take from different frameworks and how they were working with this approach. With building micro-frontends instead, it was a more complicated, let's say, subject, because when I started 7 years ago, there wasn't any documentation at all. There wasn't even the name micro-frontends. It was micro apps or other names that you have seen in the community. So that for me was playing a role as a thought leader to trying to unpack and provide replicable patterns that I have seen in the trenches. Meanwhile, we were developing in my previous company that architecture style, and then trying to apply them in multiple other industries and see that they were working. So that experience, because also I was sitting as VP of architecture, so I was able to see not only the technology part, but also the organizational part, the struggle of developers, why they were struggling to understand the concept, and certain things that created frictions. I was in a very privileged position. I thought that it was the time to write another book, because it was an experience that I struggle to see that is happening every day. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen in my career again, but that was such a profound and a deep experience that they have seen that I had to share with the community. The only way to do so in the right way was describing this thing deeply, not only with a series of articles as I started, but going more in deep and provide guidance and patterns that they can take and apply. And the challenge there for me was trying to not rely on a framework too much, but going an extra mile and going in deep on understanding what there was behind. Because if you master that part, then today is one framework, tomorrow there will be another framework, and in 3 years there will be another one, but the patterns behind will remain almost the same, if not the same. Therefore, the investment that you do on that will pay back for longer term than having just one framework that you master.
Moving back to the next question, Luca, you have spent more than 15 years in the industry so far. Started in 2004 and have worked on various projects, started your own company, have worked with multiple companies, worked at CTO as well. So, you have a huge experience already, right? Can you tell us a little bit about, during this entire career professional journey of yours, what do you think, what mistakes that you have made in your career that you would like others to avoid?
I made mistakes almost every day, so tough to say. But I would say a few suggestions for developers. First of all, is definitely developers are quite passionate on specific technologies or frameworks. And one thing that I recommend is not to fall in the trap that because you're passionate about a specific language, you discard everything else. So having an open mind and trying to potentially create small experiments with other languages, other frameworks, definitely helps to cross-pollinate yourself with a different point of views. There isn't another important thing is that there isn't right or wrong in technology. There are different paths for similar solutions, and therefore that. When I hear discussion between developers say, "Oh no, I'm right because that is the way that I say," it doesn't make much sense. Recently, modern architecture, we demystify the concept of, let's say, design pattern that works everywhere, and the fact to say the context should drive the right decision. And I that resonates extremely well with me because sometimes I have seen companies taking a successful implementation of an architecture that was working in a company, applying there and fail miserably, not because they were not capable to implement that, but because the context where they were operating, they were asking for different architecture or different decisions that they didn't take into account. So that is a very important part. The other suggestion is don't be afraid to ask questions and show also your weakness, because the weakness of today probably will be the strength of tomorrow. So it's very, very important that you don't feel repressed or you don't feel bad because you think that you cannot add value in a conversation. Do that. And if the people around you are smart enough, they will answer the question, and there is no jokes or anything involved. It's literally the community that is helping others to grow, and probably is the best thing that could happen. And sometimes, yes, you will find yourself in a situation that might be embarrassing, but at the same time, if you take later on away the feeling, you will see that you have learned something. That's something, if it's happening constantly, every day, it's definitely a good way to become a strong professional.
So my next question for you is, Luca, so things are changing rapidly, right, in terms of tech, right? What do you think, what are the key skills that developers lack which they need to address for a speedy career growth?
Speedy?
Career growth.
Oh, career growth. So I believe that currently there are high in demand the skills around cloud. So definitely look at let's say developing on the cloud. I can see a lot of value. If you want to be more futuristic, we can think about Web 3.0. That is still a question mark how far will have traction in the mainstream, but definitely there are some interesting things there. The other thing is follow your passion, because in reality, yes, you can follow, let's say, cloud or Web 3.0, but if then it doesn't resonate well with you, you won't do the extra mile. And I think many people are saying, oh yeah, but you can do a career in this industry also without the passion. Absolutely true. It depends then how much you are going to invest in what you're doing, and then the return that you're going to have. Many people that I have met in my career that have a decent success, they're also passionate about what they're doing. You see that they are trying to do the extra mile around how to connect certain concepts that maybe no one else has seen them together, and trying to read some books and trying to have cross-pollination in different disciplines. So it's something that let's say thinking out of the box in this industry can really help, but you need to find something that triggers you, that when you wake up in the morning you are happy to do, and that for me is the main advice.
Thank you so much, Luca, for this, and it was lovely interacting with you.